Go to the number 4 top story. Essay, visible and felt impacts of Bitcoin culture. This is from Unschooled. Bitcoin territory. This was only 4 hours ago, huh? 15 comments, 3,869 cents. Wow, this made the top 5 right away.
Yeah, I
Holy,
guess so.
wow.
I was surprised by that too, because I was reading the top. I read the top five this morning, and then or like reread a lot of it, and then I think there was another one in the top four spot. I think KR's might have been there, and
So this might have had.
yeah, and then
Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
And then I went back. Then I went back at like a couple hours before we were going to record this, and I saw this was in the top four, so that I made sure to read this.
So this might have had some heavy top tier snackers zapping this, huh?
Yeah, I think a lot of stackers resonated with this in all likelihood. It looks like, yeah, 10 zappers on this bad boy.
I got 11. I clocked 11 on this one.
Oh, maybe I loaded mine earlier. Okay.
So what do you?
Well,
What is this about?
yeah, I think I've been struggling, trying for a few minutes, knowing that we're going to talk about this, how to maybe sum it up as succinctly as possible. But I think Unschooled's main point is that Bitcoiners are spending a lot of time on things that they shouldn't be. There's like a lot of as far as like our culture building and kind of the messages that we're sending each other, and like anyone who's listening to Bitcoiners, it's all kind of high time preference stuff, um, and likely being high time preference stuff will not age well, and it will not survive the test of time because it usually has the quality of like not being very true, and um, certainly not being true for very long, and has subtle misleading aspects to it and things like that. And instead, we should focus on the low time preference stuff. Things like Bitcoin's security, Bitcoin's privacy, its properties that make it decentralized, it's censorship resistant. These kind of things that we know have to be there in the future if Bitcoin is going to succeed, and therefore are timeless things to work to think about and refine. In addition to that, Unschool ties it into like family values, because that is something that we often see coincide with a lot of Bitcoin stuff, is in trying to think about the future more, is a lot of talk about family and how to do family the right way and why people should start families, and um, things like that. And then I think after that introduction, it kind of goes through three like aspects to Bitcoin's culture, and describes what they think is visible in Bitcoin's culture on that dimension. Like one of them is art. The easiest one I think to understand is maybe artistic contributions. Like what does Bitcoin show about Bitcoin, or what does Bitcoin art show about Bitcoin, and then like how like what is it? How does it feel? And kind of what is visible is more like the short term impact, and what is felt is what is, I think, what Unschooled is associated with the long term impact. In the case of Bitcoin art, he said it's kind of it seems at first kind of shallow. Bitcoin is freedom. Satoshi is a godlike figure, um, and it might be kind of boring. But then he says on a deeper level, it shows how appreciative Bitcoiners are of Bitcoin itself, and that that is maybe a mission worth serving. But anyway, it's kind of it's a fairly uh, nuanced thing, kind of deep, and has quite a bit of dimensionality to it. But I think does a great job of exploring what it intends to.
Yeah. So how does he end though? So just in closing, I truly believe that culture in general is deficit nowadays because most of the informational artifacts we consume are extremely fleeting and temporary. It's not that only rich and powerful are capable of generating a lasting impression. So yeah, how does he end here? Like, what is he saying? Like, what is he trying to
And
say,
it
Keon?
started out a lot how it's my memory is, at least, it ended a lot how it started, in the sense that we shouldn't be paying attention to the short term news cycle. We should be paying attention to the long term fact cycle, um, and like the long term value cycle rather than the short term popularity cycle. So
Yeah,
just kind of went back to more of that uh, kind of frame where it's important where we put our attention. And it seems like more than ever before, Bitcoiners are quite distracted with like short term phenomena going on in Bitcoin.
yeah. I think. I mean, I have so much to say here, but I guess I'll just, for the stackers that are listening to this, because those are the people that I care about. That's why I do this show. Like, I think this is an amazing article, and I can't wait to go back and read this later. I mean, this is the type of stuff that I love about Stacker.News. It's like these thoughtful, well articulated, um, deep dives into how I definitely how I definitely see the culture in Bitcoin. Um, because there is this kind of short term thinking that's going on right now. Like you have Saylor, you have Jack Mallers. They're all, they're running corporations that are monetizing Bitcoin and you know through securities, and that's a whole thing right now. That's getting a lot of attention, and there's going to be Main Street that's going to be investing in these securities and paying like I don't know how much over the price of a normal Bitcoin, and it's also they can just dump on retail. That's a thing, right? So that's going on. That's getting a lot of attention, and not only is it getting attention, they're getting praised for it, right? So that's a whole thing. And then on the other side of that, you have like we'll talk about it later in the show because it's in the top stories. You have new people that are coming into Bitcoin who are newly rich, and they're getting a lot of attention. And then we have these maximalists that were the ones that told us like be low time preference, stay humble, stack sats, these type of people, and they're doing the complete opposite now. And a lot of us are like John Travolta in that little gif, right? They're like, wait a second, what's going on?
Yeah.
and uh, and I think to the snackers that are listening and watching this, this is why last week Car went on a rant, right? It's time to slay. It's time to slay these guys, and it's not done in a malicious way or in a bad way. It just means that this is the time where this new legion, this new group has to step in and become those voices. It's time for us to carry that flag forward until we get slayed, because we will. Me and Keon will eventually, uh, we'll fall that way at some point. I hope not, but snackers will have to call us out at some point. Hopefully we won't. I don't think I will, but I never thought these people would either. Like you would have told me Jack Mallers is gonna, because it's one thing. It's one thing. Like I'll just say this. It's just to clear up some information, but like it's one thing to have to start a company like Strike, right? And it's one thing to like actually, you know, get in a situation where you're like you have due diligence you have to do. There's KYC. There's all this stuff that you have to do because you're running a company, and there's certain trade-offs you have to make, Keon, right? And then before you know it, you're like you have to follow these rules, and it's like dang, I have to do this, and then there's investors and all this stuff, right? So totally understand that. I totally get that from like a founder's perspective. Your kind of hands are tied, right? Like
Mhm.
as a founder, you kind of have stakeholders, you kind of have to follow these rules. So like I'm never going to fault Jack for that. Like if anything, like he just did what was best for his company. always going to get a pass from me for that. But on the other hand, when you start a new company with the sole purpose of just buying Bitcoin to dump on Main Street, to dump on people, like that's a little bit different. Like that's kind of, like that's a choice there. And that's what I'm saying to the stackers at home. Like, this is not normal behavior that you would see coming from these people who in the past would call this out for us, right? And that's all I'm saying. It's like it's a weird time. And I think what we're seeing here is this very short term, this very high time preference fiat kind of thinking. And we need to get back to low time preference type of mindset. And I mean, that's what I do here at Pleb Lab. It's like you can't have like this kind of fiat mindset. I mean, this is why we are in the situation we are in America. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also like unimportant and a distraction sometimes. And for me, I just don't pay attention to it anymore. But it's in our face all the time, and I see it on Stacker.News because it gets voted and everybody wants to talk about it. This financial engineering that's going on, and it's almost at a point where it's kind of a joke at this point, because it's the charade and the joke of it all is so visible and it's so outlandish. And and these people are going on stage at all these conferences and they're getting cheered, and it's clearly a complete scam. And us behind the scenes, the ones who are doing all the heavy lifting in the building and the behind the scenes work, are just kind of like just there's nothing else to do but just ignore, keep building, and build for this more vibrant, beautiful future that we know that we're building towards. And that's all you can do is just keep doing the right thing. And irregardless of how these other people are taking advantage of the system, irregardless of what they're doing, that's what I believe. That's what I believe. Doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter, Keyan.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think it certainly doesn't matter if you're, building what you want to build and all that stuff. I definitely agree with that, and I think that's, what you should pay attention to. I think a lot of this stuff, I think, if you have the right mindset or whatever, you can filter out a lot of this stuff and do yourself a great service by doing that. And maybe you don't have to shut off your internet like KR, but you can simply just like sort of ignore it to some degree. I sort of like watching it. I like I like to see like kind of what people are thinking and how they're thinking about it. And I think Saylor's been pretty honest about it. He's just like, I'm really good at this financial engineering stuff, and this is like the best financial engineering play of all time. And like, I'm never going to be able to beat anyone at building anything, but I can beat people at understanding like the arrow of technology through time, and beating them there and building financial instruments around it. And that's kind of what he's done. And so he's honest about it. And so it's interesting to
I see,
hear and
like
see that
somebody.
going
So
on.
let me just say one thing. Somebody like Sailor doesn't bother me. Actually, to be honest, like just to be clear,
Hmm.
it's the people like Maulers who are like was that guy that a lot of us really respected, right? So, because he had a choice. He had a choice, right? It was like, he was a founder that a lot of people looked up to. And
Mm. But he,
well, let me just
I
so
just,
Sailor was
yeah,
already in
sorry.
that situation. Like, he invented the wheel for it, right? And we saw the interview with Jordan Peterson that we talked about a few weeks ago, where he was like, he felt like he was the short end of the stick with Elon, who he thought were his like contemporaries, right? Um,
Mhm.
and it's funny because like with Mahler's though, it's different because Mahler's was already doing strike, and at least to us, he looked very much successful. Maybe it was a different story behind the scenes. I don't know, but that's completely different because it's like I'm gonna keep doing strike. It's already going. I'm gonna go and do this and use that. It's just kind of like, really, really, dude. Like it's yeah. It's just different, man. And he doesn't owe anybody anything. He can do that. It's just it's just the climate that we're in, and for me, it's just like, man, that sucks because that was one that I really loved having in our kind of like in our group. But it's okay. We got to make another one like that at some point. So maybe it's Francisco. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. There's almost like you feel like a loss of
Hmm.
sort of a central figure in kind of Bitcoin's culture, and I wonder how much that's even true. I mean, I know like whether Jack was central to Bitcoin culture. I think he does a very great job of playing sort of a rock star role, and I think he did that really well. And was that he was like the capstone at all of the conferences for a while, and but his company is is a lot of what Bitcoiners claim to not want to see, which is like this KYC custodial product. And so, while it's like we assume it's an essential part of Bitcoin's future to have such things because we need on ramps and off ramps, and who better than one of our own to build it? Maybe
But who
maybe
actually?
it's less
But
about
honestly
yeah.
though, Keon, like who actually uses Strike though? Like I don't use Strike. Like, do you use Strike?
Um, I have a Strike account. I actually like their
Oh,
redesign.
you do. Okay, so
Um,
yeah, I
yeah.
don't know anybody
I,
that uses Strike though. To be honest, everybody uses Cash
well,
App.
anyone who has a wallet through Primal is using Strike.
Yeah,
Um, but
that's what I'm trying to
yeah,
say. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to throw shade at Strike. I'm just saying like it's just it's one of those things where it's like he was our guy. Like he was our guy. And it
yeah,
just feels
it
like we
defies it
lost our
defies our
guy.
expectations.
Yeah,
Well,
we
another
just lost our guy.
we probably don't want to talk about this too long, but one of the things that I was surprised by at the 2025 conference, and although I didn't see it in person, um, it wasn't Mallers who was the capstone speaker. It
Oh, who
was
was it?
Saylor.
Oh yeah.
It was Saylor. I believe it was Saylor, or it was Ross. Regardless, Saylor came after Mallers, and so that just kind of shows that I think if Mallers wants to stay the rock star, um, and not get replaced like Backstreet Boys were replaced by NSYNC. That's the extent of my music metaphors. But like, doesn't want to get one upped by 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 the next rock star.
Yeah.
He has to play the same. He's going to start playing the same game and competing on that dimension.
Yeah, I guess this is
And
his he has to keep. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I
yeah,
guess I
that's
guess he had to leave that kind of yeah, I guess you're right. I guess he's only working
yeah,
him way up. Yeah, I guess it's good for
yeah.
him. We need to find a new Maulers then.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
it's you.
I'm not
Maybe
sure
it's
it's
you getting
good.
off. Maybe it's you getting off your skateboard. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's you getting off your
Mm.
uncle's vehicle.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. But like from that viewed from that perspective, I think that's most of what's going on, and I don't know what to make of it, but it's like, yeah, like electronic music was invented, and if he wants to stay
Yeah,
relevant, he has to start playing electronic music, even
yeah,
if we know him as like a great
yeah,
acoustic guitarist or whatever. So I don't know.
yeah. No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I'm glad we had this talk because it does feel like it does feel like this is a very timely post. Very timely post.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to an unschooled would say Jack Mallers is making a mistake because he's paying more attention to fashion and trends and like the
Mm,
Bitcoin music scene
right.
than he is in like the music that he cares about and the music that will last forever.
Exactly.
And yeah, and so that's kind of Unschool's point. I forgot to mention, and because I made a note to myself to mention it, but Unschooled has a bullet point in here about in-person meetups, community, and that's what they give as an example of perhaps like the most enduring, important thing that Bitcoiners can work on. And I know that would resonate a lot with you because I've heard you say a lot of similar things. But that's
But
one thing I wanted to
you
make
know
sure
what? You know what they
hit
throw
home.
back at us though. They call us purists, or they call us like these other words like hipster coiners or whatever. And to me, that's like the most BS thing ever because uh, like I wouldn't call Jimmy Song a purist or a hipster coiner. I would just call him just a freaking Bitcoiner who stayed true to his ethos, right? Like, he doesn't do these things.
Yeah, but I also don't. I think I would guess that Jimmy does not. Jimmy, I don't think Jimmy has really weighed in on the treasury company trend. I think he sees it as sort of inevitable, and he doesn't see it. He doesn't. I don't think he has sort of a moral point of view on it. I don't think he sees it as gross. He kind of just sees it as sort of inevitable. The incentives playing out. This has to
He
happen
also doesn't have a weekly
at some
news
point.
show.
It's true, but I pay quite a bit of attention to the stuff Jimmy puts out, and I haven't seen
He's
him
smart.
say,
It's because he's smart.
he's not fighting, he's not fighting this treasury stuff. I think because I think his point, he's probably like ambivalent about it. He's like, it's gonna happen. He's like, I think it's a fiat game. I don't like it. Is what I guess he'd
It's
say,
good.
but it's like better than better that these companies are buying Bitcoin on for their treasuries than some little Solana or something.
Yeah.
That's gonna be even worse when it implodes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like following this stuff week to week and being wrong or like seeing how it develops over time and being like, oh, I learned, in front of everybody. Um, I was right about eCash though. So there you
Were
go.
you? I don't know. I think it's still
I was
early for
totally right
eCash.
about eCash. Are you kidding me? I was the only one right about eCash.
I mean, I know things. I know other people have caught up to you on the point of view that eCash is
Call that
effective might
call
effectively be a CBDC.
call
But that's
that
about
super
we
early.
haven't seen eCash turn into CBDCs
Well,
yet.
this
So I think
the stablecoin bill is going to help eCash all the way now, right? Isn't that going to help with that?
I mean, we do see people I was surprised to see how fast people started pairing stable coins like Taproot assets and like stable coins as Taproot assets with eCash
eCash. Yeah,
systems.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think if the bill passes, I don't know if Trump's going to sign it or not. Dude, I'm all for eCash at that point. I told you that was the only thing that I was on, like, kind of like, it was just like, as if they pass a bill with eCash, then I'm on board with it. I just not I'm not going to be on board with something unless they're going to pass a bill. We're halfway to a CBDC.
Yeah.
We're almost there, guys. Let's keep it going.
I think there's also, there's that dimensionality of eCash. There's also the Bitcoin dimension of eCash where you have, you know, just, wallet of Satoshi like custodial banks for small amounts of Bitcoin that are a little more anonymous and have slightly different authentication mechanisms that allow them to be used in different contexts. And I think so eCash isn't fully the whole your kind of vision for it, or not your vision, but your predictions of it.
I think the last thing that we need, this is where, like, I was talking with Nick, is like the last thing we need to hold the line now is um, holding our keys, because they're going to come for that eventually next. That's the next thing I think they're going to come for, is they're not going to let us hold our own keys. That's what they're coming for
Yeah, I mean,
next.
not anytime soon. Not during. I don't think
So,
during this administration.
yeah, definitely
But I
next
think
administration for sure. Next administration, they come for
I
our
don't.
keys.
Well, I wouldn't even
100%.
call the count. I wouldn't call the count, but I would say, yeah. Uh, I mean, certainly if we're talking about globally, we see that already happening. I believe in the UK and the EU, they have this travel rule thing,
This will be the
which
last
is
time you'll be able to buy Bitcoin through an exchange this cycle, or this presidency. And then by the end of this presidency, you won't be able to buy Bitcoin on an exchange that you'll be able to hold. And then by the end of that, um, they'll come. And then when AOC becomes president, because that's how crazy our America is right now. uh, then you'll be able. Then they'll come for a case, but hopefully by then Keyan will be long gone. We'll see.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think it'll be AOC. I think it'll be um
Biden.
I think it'll be another it'll be like it'll be probably like a young Bernie.
He's only getting
I think
older.
uh, yeah, but like someone who has who is as like politically savvy as Bernie Sanders while simultaneously being able to like, lie to people in the right way.
Yeah.
Um, I think that we kind of, if they had, someone who wasn't at end of life who was like that, they'd probably win. Anyway, I don't want to make political predictions, but
Yeah, neither do I.
yeah,
I think
should it? Yeah,
it's
stuff
yeah,
gets
it's
weird
about to get bad.
eventually.
Anyway, Stackers, this is all for you. This is Cars Alpha right now. Somebody make bets on Predex.